U.S. Supreme Court has just agreed to hear a monumental case challenging the birthright citizenship, putting the 14th Amendment squarely on the chopping block. So it looks like the very definition of being an American citizen is now on the chopping block of the U.S. Supreme Court. Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome back to Voices Within the Immigration and Business side of the channel. The US Supreme Court has just agreed to hear this case that could fundamentally alter over a century of American law. The challenge to birthright citizenship, this is the president, Donald Trump's long-standing promise to end what he calls anchor babies, finally reaching the highest court. If he succeeds, okay, millions of US citizens could find their citizenships questioned and the future of immigration in America would irrevocably changed. Okay, we're going to break it down, the legal arguments, the case, and the implications that this case could have. So to understand the magnitude of this, we have to go back to the 14th Amendment, right? The US Constitution, rectified in 1868 in the aftermath of the Civil War. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment clearly states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. So, for over 125 years, this citizenship clause has universally, interpreted to mean that anyone born on U.S. soil or anyone born in a U.S. soil is a U.S. citizen, regardless of their parents' immigration status. Okay, this was cemented by the Supreme Court in 1898 decision in the U.S. versus immigrants who are not citizens. Right, so this legal president basically has been the bedrock of American citizenship for generations, centuries. So President Trump and his allies argue that the phrase subject to jurisdiction thereof was never intended to include children of undocumented immigrants. They assert it was meant to exclude individuals who were not fully subject to the U.S. law at the time, such as children of foreign diplomats or evading armies. This is a very narrow, controversial reinterpretation that files in the face of over a century of legal understanding, right? So the U.S. Supreme Court, or the Supreme Court's decision to grant a certiorari, basically agreeing to hear the case for State of Texas versus the President of the United States or Department of Homeland Security versus John. That's just an example that I'm giving, right? Represents a systematic shift, right? While the specific petitioner challenging birthright citizenship may vary depending on how the case originates, for example, state like Texas or the federal government itself, the core argument is going to be the same: to overturn the established interpretation of the 13th Amendment. So as of the last update that I know of, the Supreme Court has not yet agreed to hear a direct, specific challenge to birthright citizenship itself, though there are, ongoing related cases to immigration policies that could indirectly raise the question. Now, currently, legal scholars and friends of the court are filing briefs outlining their arguments for and against the current interpretation. The legal battle is basically going to hinge on original intent, textualism, and the precedence of Wong Kim Ark. This isn't just a political debate. It's a profound constitutional argument that the very fabric of American society, I would say. If the Supreme Court sides with President Trump, the consequences would be nothing short of catastrophic. So, estimate suggests that approximately 4.5 million U.S. citizen children born in the U.S. to undocumented parents, their citizenship could be retroactively questioned or even revoked, creating a massive clash of stateless individuals. Then it's going to create an unprecedented bureaucratic nightmare. How would the government track citizenship? Would birth certificate be invalidated? How would state and federal agencies differentiate between citizens and non-citizens based on parental status? Right? It would create a deeply divisive two-tier citizenship system where the circumstances of one parent rather than the place of birth determines citizenship. So the ability for children to grow, contribute to the economy, pay taxes, and serve in the military would be jeopardized as well, right? Fundamentally changing the country's demographic and economic future. And I think that's going to be the downfall of America. And the fourth or fifth thing that could cause, catastrophe for this would be the constitutional crisis, such ruling would represent a profound reinterpretation of one of the most fundamental constitutional amendments, raising questions about the judicial activism and the stability of established law. So, this Supreme Court case is battle for the soul of the 14th Amendment and the very definition of what it means to be an American. For millions, the entire future basically hangs in balance. So I leave it to you. I want to know, should birthright citizenship be protected, or is it time for it to change? Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I leave you all in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.